It was about lightening the mood and making people laugh. The year was 1975. I'm Tom Dreesen, and this is Comedy for the Ages. I started out in show business with a comedy team.
They were Tim and Tom. Tom Dreesen, back in his hometown of Harvey, Illinois, where he'd grown up destitute with 8 brothers and sisters, now wandering aimlessly. And Tim Reed, an only child, a black man from the segregated South, an unlikely pair who both joined the JCs in Harvey to help improve the community.
Our thing was playing off of one another. You know, the students were black and white, and here we were, a young black guy and a young white guy, coming into the classroom and making them laugh and playing music and then planting these seeds.
Someone suggested they team up. In 1969, they did, becoming America's first black and white comedy team.
The world was against what we were doing. The Vietnam War was raging. I had just gotten out of the service. Students were protesting all over America. African Americans were rioting in almost every major city, feeling disenfranchised from the system.
But Tom knew he'd found his calling.
When I went on stage with Tim, that first night that we got a laugh was something I had written. And it was like an epiphany, like the dark clouds in those movies you see, the B movies where the dark clouds open up and the sun come bursting through. And my whole being went, yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to be a stand-up comedian.
Despite some rough times, Tim and Tom lasted 6 years.
When the comedy team broke up, I went out to the West Coast, because in 1975, wherever you went in America, people say, what do you do for a living? You say, I'm a stand-up comedian. The next question out of their mouth was, oh yeah? You ever been on Johnny Carson? If you hadn't been on Johnny Carson in the eyes of America, you just weren't a comedian. In 1975, December 1975, I did my first Tonight Show. You're going out in front of 20 million people. All of America watched that show. You're now getting ready to walk out to that curtain and you hear Johnny Carson say, we're back now. And I'm glad you're in such a good mood tonight because my next guest is making his first appearance on The Tonight Show. And they're applauding and you get that first joke out and it got a laugh. You get that second joke, ooh, that got a laugh. And pretty soon the third joke. And now the fourth joke, I hear Johnny laughing behind me. Oh my gosh. I ended up getting 11 applause and you know, I finished with, I said, you've been a wonderful audience. And show business is a tough life. This is my first appearance on The Tonight Show. If you like me, just if you like me, and you're Protestant, say a prayer. If you're Catholic, light a candle. If you're Jewish, somebody in your family owns a nightclub. Tell them about me, will you please? And I walked out, and I went back to the curtain, and my entire life changed. I never, ever stopped working from that time on. I did 61 appearances on The Tonight Show.
He'd work with Sammy and Smokey, later with Letterman and others, knowing he'd been given a great gift of making people laugh.
When I was growing up, my dad always told me smoking marijuana causes brain damage because if you smoke it, I'm going to bash your head in.
One night after his show, he went to see Frank Sinatra's.
When I was a little boy in Harvey, shining shoes in all the bars, Frank Sinatra was on all the jukeboxes. You know, and now I was going to go see this guy that I was a big fan of.
Turns out, Frank was a fan of Tom's too, and asked him to do a few dates with him.
And I didn't say, let me check my calendar. I said, yeah, and it turned into 14 years.
Opening for Frank Sinatra was like nothing Tom had done before.
The road manager, Hank Catano, came up to me, tongue-in-cheek, and said, Tom, you're going on in 5 minutes, and I'm pacing a little bit. He said, there's 20,000 people out there. I want you to hold their attention and make them laugh, but I want you to make them laugh when you want them to laugh. I want you to pull the strings on the emotions of 20,000 people in the round. No props, no tricks, no charts, no special arrangement, no orchestra, no special lighting, nothing, just you and 20,000 people. And one more thing, Tom, not one of them came to see you.
Tom says he and Frank hung out and made each other laugh.
I was in Frank Sinatra's private jet flying with him one time, and we were landing in Palm Springs, and then the jet was going back to Los Angeles, where I lived. Frank was getting off. Frank said, you're going to spend the weekend. It was a Thursday. You're going to spend the weekend, Tommy? And I said, no, I've got to go back in to do the Tonight Show tomorrow night, Friday. He said, I'll call Freddie DeCordova. I'll get you out of it. I said, no, I don't want to get out of it. It's my 50th appearance, and it's kind of an important thing for me. He said, oh, wow, 50 appearances, is that a record? I said, well, I think other comedians have done more, but it doesn't matter, Frank. No matter what I do in my life, I could find a cure to cancer. My obituary is going to say the comedian who toured with Frank Sinatra. And he said, well, maybe my obituary will say the singer who toured with Tom Dreesen, and we both start laughing like 2 high school kids.
Dreesen was a pallbearer at Frank's funeral. His stand-up show, called An Evening with Laughter and Memories of Sinatra, has audiences in tears, but in the end, Tom always leaves them laughing.
I'm a stand-up comedian first, last, and always. That's always who I am and only who I wanted to be.